You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network. Welcome into another episode of Sabres Semantics right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network. Thank you to everybody tuned in live on YouTube here on the video version of the podcast. Well, it's audio only today, but if you're watching us live here on YouTube, we appreciate that. And thank you to those listening the next day on your favorite on-demand audio podcast platform. Make sure you give us a follow on X at Sabres Semantics, as well as on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok by searching the Armchair GM Sports Network for all of our short reels and content. As always, Sabres Semantics is proudly brought to you by Global Pet Foods, where pets are undeniably part of the family, and their three great Niagara region locations in Niagara Falls, Fawn Hill, and Scott Street in St. Catharines. Brandon Caputo here live from KeyBank Center, joined by Austin Broad of Elite Prospects, going to break down quickly the Sabres season finale against the Dallas Stars, falling 4-3 in an entertaining shootout, and most importantly, looking ahead to their first round NHL Playoffs series against the Boston Bruins. Also hear from Sabres head coach Lindy, Ruff as well. Austin, appreciate you taking the time to join us late tonight. I know wheels up for you in the morning and an exciting weekend planned for you, but an exciting time for the Sabres and something that we've been waiting for on this show for, 6 years now, a playoff preview.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in a weird way, a meaningless 80-second game is something we're accustomed to. We're just not accustomed to what comes after that 80-second game, which is a playoff series.
Yeah, so we're gonna quickly discuss that. We're gonna obviously look ahead to the series against the rival Boston Bruins. So before we get going in things, I don't know about you, but there was a lot of things that just sort of felt like odd tonight because, one, it was the Dallas Stars. Lindy Ruff coached with the Dallas Stars. We all know about 1999. Tyler Myers was on the other end of the ice tonight. So it just felt like some weird vibes tonight on the Dallas Stars sort of things. Is that maybe kind of fitting that the Sabres' final home game before their regular their playoffs are against the Dallas Stars?
Yeah, a bit odd. I mean, how often do you see a team? I mean, I guess it happened for Dallas this year as well, but Buffalo closing out the year with two non-conference games. Um, a bit of a little quirk in the schedule there, and yeah, just some nice tie-ins there for Lindy and the Sabres and everything like that. But honestly, in a weird way, wouldn't have it any other way. Um, a game that meant nothing for Buffalo and Dallas to kind of just ease the end of this regular season and get ready for what really matters, which is obviously the playoffs. But good to see. A little surprised there wasn't any call-ups for today. I kind of thought we'd get one or two Rochester guys up here, especially with them having a day off or being off until Friday. But interesting 11-7 matchup tonight, and got to see a couple guys have a big game, which is kind of good. We can get into that as we kind of preview the playoffs later on. But all in all, just, yeah, weird mindset for tonight's game because obviously did not care that much about it and the result and everything. Just hopefully everyone was healthy, which is kind of all that mattered getting through tonight. But yeah, very, very weird end to the season in a good way because the drought ended. But tonight, kind of hard to. I mean, the building was obviously electric. The crowd was great, fan appreciation, everything like that. But being outside the building, obviously paid attention to the game, watched the game like I would any other thing, but didn't really have a lot of juice in this game. And in the most positive way, I mean that.
Yeah, and who knows? Maybe these teams will be meeting down the road. They're two teams that obviously had fantastic seasons, and you never know what could come later down the road in the playoffs. But a few, I guess, housekeeping notes to talk about Austin. The Rick Martin Award was given to Rasmus Dahlin this year for his perseverance and on-ice excellence. Obviously, everything he dealt with off the ice. And Beck Malenstein he broke a single season record for hits by a Sabre. So two accolades that were shown in the Jumbotron tonight, along with the Atlantic Division Championship graphic and roars from the crowd for each one of those.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, no, I don't think anyone doubted who was going to get the Rico Award this year. Like, I think, yeah, like there was really no competition for not only as good as he was this year, but just everything he had gone through. Darlene was a slam dunk. Mallenstein getting the record for the hits is good for him. It's like, I know there's like, people be like, well, if you're throwing a lot of hits, it means he doesn't have the puck. But a guy like Beck Mallenstein deserves something memorable for this year, and getting a franchise record for hits in a season kind of just speaks to the style of game that he plays and just how much he can spark this team. He's kind of become, not a glue guy kind of gets thrown around a lot, a little bit too frequently for my liking. So I'm not going to go with glue guy, but he definitely he's become a guy that fans have fallen in love with and just provides a spark to the team. Reminds me a little bit of Coletta back in his heyday, but Mallenstein is not as reckless as Coletta was.
No, and there's how many times did we see Mallenstein lay a big hit, create a turnover,
Yeah.
and it led to a Sabres goal, right? So
Yeah.
he's been fantastic this season. Quickly, as you mentioned a little bit, different lineup tonight. Lindy talked about in the morning skate today that they were going to sit some guys in preparation for the playoffs with nothing really to play for. Can't really argue with that. I know some people say you should be ready to go once game one hits with your full lineup, but I was okay with it tonight. Samuelson, McLeod, Zucker, Thompson, and Darlene all sat tonight, and we had 11 forwards and 7 defensemen. There was even the second power play unit that had 3 defensemen on it, and I found it kind of funny. Some of the bruising guys were out on the power play that you never see, but Greenway was on the top line with Kozak and Alex Tuck. But yeah, definitely one of those scrambled lineups. But if you're the Sabres, you'll take that in the situation that they're in.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think everyone kind of expected people to sit. I think Darlene and Tage were the obvious two, and then I was a little curious as to how they were going to handle the rest of it. Tuck, Norris, Benson, Doan, like all those guys being in kind of all make sense to some degree. I know maybe there was an argument for resting Norris because of his injuries this year, but it can kind of be reversed. Like obviously him getting through this game healthy was paramount, but getting a guy who's only played, 40 odd games, another game is never a bad thing. Was a little surprised on the McLeod, or not benching. Benching's not the right word, obviously. Rest. He was not one that I had pegged for rest, so it was a little bit interesting to see that one. But the Sabres go 11-7. Honestly, the only thing that mattered today was being healthy. The Lions were funny to watch. The power play was funny to watch. Obviously, power play wasn't much worse than this typical Sabres power play is, but yeah, glad that everyone who did play got through healthy, and glad that they were able to get a guy like Tage and Darlene some rest, because Darlene, with everything he's been through, giving him a day to kind of just soak everything in is a good thing. Tage, I know there was that one practice like a week or two ago where he had maintenance, so giving him an extra day off is always a good thing as well. So the big guys, some of the big guys got rest, some of the big guys got to play, and I think, like I said, the Norris, Benson, and Doan line performing as well as they did again tonight, I think I'm hoping bodes well for the Sabres going into this, because I think that line is going to be a key player for them in the next round, or when the playoffs start. We'll talk about that later, obviously.
Yeah, that was the only line that did not get mixed up tonight with some of the lineup changes. Benson, Norris, and Doan were very good tonight, and I'm in agreement. Norris has only played in 43 games coming into this game. He needs to get the reps, for a guy that's missed half the season. So I was totally on board with him playing, and obviously they needed him there to get the point. So let's get forward here with the game stats tonight, brought to you by J&L Flooring. If you think you have a better deal anywhere else, you don't know Jack. Check them out at J&L Flooring or visit their Niagara Falls location to begin your quality flooring project today. Shots on net, 28-24 in favor of the Stars. Sabres went 0 for 3 on the power play, no shocker there. Dallas's second-ranked power play went in the National Hockey League, went 1 for 3 tonight. And takeaways, Sabres had 4, Dallas had 8. I don't know if there's anything you want to mention from the game stats tonight.
No, like I said, I'll mention, Norris and Benson getting on the score sheet, staying hot, because I think that's a good thing. But I think most of the other stuff stat-wise in this game is kind of just doesn't really matter, because that's just the nature of this game and everything. Even I will say on the Dallas side, was a little shocked to see Ottinger starting. Kind of thought maybe they'd give him a rest, but obviously that's Dallas. They got their own thing to worry about there. But yeah, no, I don't think the stats speak for themselves that much tonight. It is funny that the power play tonight has virtually the same stats that their normal power play unit would have, though.
I did like the fact that Dallas basically played, other than Miro Heiskanen, their entire lineup that we're going to see. So I think that's a positive for Buffalo that, they sat 7 important players and they took a basically full Dallas Stars team to a shootout. So I think that's a positive in Buffalo sense. Moving forward with the scoring summary real quick, brought to you by the Niagara Employment Help Center, helping people find work in the Niagara region since 1983. Check out their updated job board at ehc.on.ca to find your next work opportunity today. Maverick Bourque got the Stars on the board 1-0 in the first period. Josh Norris got it tied up with a really good shot over top of Ottinger on the left circle, going over top of him far side from Zach Benson and Owen Power. As you mentioned, that line contributes again with being able to stay intact tonight. Zach Benson got a shorthanded goal in the second period. Right after that, Dallas tied it up with an Essa Lindell power play goal. Later, it was Alex Tuch getting his 33rd of the year on a really nice pass from behind the net from Tanner Pearson, almost like a backhand no-look pass, and Tuch buries it on the goal line there to make it 3-2. Dallas tied it up, and then we went to an entertaining shootout where it went to, I believe, 4 shooters each, and Wyatt Johnston ended up getting the winner there. Norris and Quinn scored in the shootout for Buffalo, but also did Robertson, Duchesne, and then Johnston got the winner after Doan was stopped. So I don't know if there's any of the goals that you want to touch on tonight.
No, I mean nothing specifically, right? Like you kind of obviously the Benson shorthanded goal is a great individual effort by him. Kozak tripping the puck out, Benson being able to break free and get the breakaway there. Norris scoring, a Norris goal, picking his spot. He's, like I said, he has been on a heater lately, which I think is worth talking about. Other than that, Jack Quinn does what Jack Quinn does in the shootout. He just stays hot. Sabres' first shootout loss. 5-1 on the year now, I believe, in shootouts is their record. They can't boast that they're undefeated. Other than that, no, nothing specific to touch on. Like I said, it's good thing that they were able to, like you said, push a Dallas team, icing pretty much their entire roster to a shootout with the roster that they had. But the health and the confidence of the depth contributors, I think, is the best thing to take away from this. Because if the Sabres go into the series against the Bruins with that Norris line going the way they're going, I think they're going to be a dangerous team.
The Sabres finished their home record this season at 26-10-5. I'd say that's a pretty successful season.
Yeah, absolutely. The home record, very, very, very impressive. Kind of saw inklings of their home record improving a lot last year. They had a pretty solid home record, but the way it is this year, getting that home ice advantage back in KeyBank Center, I think will be big. I mean, obviously it's big for us fans, but I think Buffalo, it sounds weird to say because of the playoff drought and how bad and toxic the building has been over the years, but when that arena is buzzing, it is a very strong home ice advantage. And going up against a team like the Bruins, who have a 500 record on the road, that will be all the difference, especially having home ice advantage.
Yeah, the Sabres could have home ice advantage for at least the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, but won't get too ahead of ourselves there. But they finish, as we mentioned, top of the Atlantic, 109 points. They'll play the Boston Bruins in round 1. The only team that finished higher than them were the Carolina Hurricanes with 113 points, who clinched the Eastern Conference. And overall, the only teams better than Buffalo were Colorado, this Dallas team that they saw tonight, in Carolina. So 4th overall in the league. I guess I'll leave it on that. The Sabres just to be able to finish, at the upper echelon of the league with teams like that. I don't think we could ever have imagined that back in November. So it's just it's still crazy for me to look at the standings right now and see Buffalo 4th overall as the season comes to an end here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's surreal. Yeah, it's surreal to see them at top the Atlantic and top 5 in the league. It just, no one could have comprehended this or even envisioned this. So great regular season. Now it's time. It's time for the real thing to start.
It is. So we are going to take our commercial break right now. We're going to come back. We're going to hear from Sabres head coach Lindy Ruff, and then Austin and I are going to preview the first round matchup against the Boston Bruins. So stay right here. Be right back on Sabres Semantics right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network. Proudly brought to you by Global Pet Foods, where pets are undeniably part of the family. Right back after this.
Whether you just brought home a new furry member of the family or would like help finding something new for your picky eater, maybe you've done your research and want to upgrade your pet's nutrition from an entry-level food, the staff at any of the global pet food stores in the Niagara region would love to help you out. Let them show you why our lesser-known premium brands are so much better than highly advertised big corporate brands. The value from the brands we carry is not only visible in the health and vitality in your pet, but also because you won't need to feed as much as with the other brands. Better nutrition from a longer-lasting bag. We hope to see you at one of the following locations across Niagara: 3643 Portage Road in Niagara Falls, 160 Highway 20 in Font Hill, as well as 400 Scott Street, St. Catharines. Global Pet Foods, where pets are undeniably part of the family.
Since 1999, Niagara Denture Clinic has been helping thousands of patients achieve natural-looking smiles with the confidence to show them off. Sean Patel and his wife Anne, both licensed denturists, bring a wealth of skill and experience to the warm and friendly atmosphere to their Niagara Falls location at 5501 Drummond Road. And their on-site Niagara Hearing Clinic offers free hearing tests and a variety of services to fit your needs. This family-run practice takes pride in providing superior care and service to their patients, along with the best premium products available on the market. Get the best work done at a more reasonable price. Niagara Dental Clinic is here to help. Protect your teeth with a mouth guard, replace missing teeth, and get better hold with your dental implants. Call them today for a free consultation at 905-353-1552 or check them out online at niagaradentureclinic.com. Niagara Denture Clinic, creating natural smiles in the Niagara region for 25 years. Wild Bill's Auto Repair is your local center for auto maintenance and repair in the Niagara region. Since 2012, Wild Bill's Auto Repair and Body Shop has been helping customers stay safe and confident on the road, knowing their vehicles in top running condition through their services. Located at 7868 Oakwood Drive in Niagara Falls, the garage started as a tribute to the owner's father, William Robert Hunter, who passed away, continuing the same community spirit and high level of service which customers came to expect from him back at Hunter's Auto Repair. Their multi-award winning auto shop has earned the trust of the Niagara community with its fair treatment of all customers, who can feel confident they'll get the trustworthy advice and repairs during their visit. Their experienced crew loves meeting new people and looks forward to forming a lasting partnership for the care of your cars. To find out more or to book service, contact them today, 905-358-7868 or wildbillsauto.ca. Wild Bill's Auto Repair, helping customers stay safe and confident on the road since 2012.
Are you currently looking for work in the Niagara region? If so, you owe it to yourself to check out the services provided by the Niagara Employment Help Center, located at 6100 Thorold Stone Road in Niagara Falls. Their many free services include a fully staffed resource area open to the public, resume and cover letter writing, local labor market information, job search strategies, assistance with clarifying employment, training, and career goals, employment counseling and job search support, and Better Jobs Ontario information and registration assistance. Check out their website at ehc.on.ca or call 905-358-0021 for more information. The Niagara Employment Help Center, helping people find work since 1983.
This Employment Ontario program is funded by the Government of Ontario. You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network.
Hey, hey, here we go, it's hockey night in Buffalo. Hey, hey, here we go, the boys in blue, white, and gold. Hey, hey, here we go, make some noise, get in the zone. All for one and one for all, let's hear you from your heart and soul.
Welcome back to part 2 of today's Sabres Semantics episode right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network. Proudly brought to you by Global Pet Foods, where pets are undeniably part of the family, and their 3 great Niagara region locations in Niagara Falls, Font Hill, and Scott Street in St. Catharines. If you're listening to this the next day on the 16th, that is the Thursday, you can go to any 3 of the Global Pet Foods locations and get your dog or cat a free dog treat courtesy of this Sabres home victory to close out the regular season, and courtesy of us here at Sabres Semantics. We appreciate them as always. Brandon Caputo and Austin Broad of Elite Prospects back with you. Just quickly went over game number 82 of the Sabres season, and looking ahead now to the NHL playoffs. It's going to be the first time at KeyBank Center, and the Sabres are going to host the first game. Austin, I find it kind of interesting that we still don't know when this first game is going to be. Maybe by the time this comes out, we'll have some answers. But even though they've known their opponent now for a few days, we still don't know with the way the NHL playoff scheduling goes and TV rights and building availability. It's going to be interesting to see when they actually schedule these things.
Yeah, part of me is wondering if they're waiting for. I believe if Vegas gets a point tonight against Seattle, they'd clinch the Pacific, and then that'll kind of lock in the matchups. It'll just be. I know Edmonton and Anaheim both play Thursday, so I'm wondering if they're just waiting to see if the Pacific Division winner gets locked in. Because other than that, yeah, I generally don't know what they're waiting for. I know there's been a couple rumors here and there. I believe the Lightning have to open on Sunday because their arena is not available on Saturday. But again, these are all just rumors that I've seen floating around. Hoping to hear sometime tomorrow during the day, because again, if we're waiting on the Western Conference Pacific teams, they play late at night, and I can't imagine the NHL wants to drop their playoff schedule on a Thursday night at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern time.
Yeah, and Sabres fans, you got to do better when looking at Twitter sometimes, because I saw that fake tweet going around from Frank Saravalli about Tate McRae and the Wiggles being here at KeyBank Center. That is not true. The only thing scheduled here, I believe, is like a Barry Manilow concert next Wednesday, and I don't know if even that's going to happen. So, Sabres fans, you got to look this stuff up. But yeah, so the Sabres don't have any conflicts here at KeyBank Center to open up the weekend. As a Bills fan yourself, Austin, and I'm sure a lot of the Bills fans out there, I'm not one of them, so I'm asking this question honestly here. Would you love to see a Sabres first playoff game be like a 1 o'clock Bills Sunday start?
Me personally, absolutely not. I want the Saturday 5 o'clock window is what I want. But no, like, it is what it is. I do think, again, logistically speaking, I do think if confirmed, Tampa and Montreal are starting on the Sunday. I don't know why the NHL would want both of their Atlantic Division matchups both kicking off the same day, but maybe they do. I do know there was that, again, Bruce Garriock from the Ottawa Sun had reported that someone had requested that Ottawa and Montreal don't play on the same days.
Mm-hmm. Hockey night in Canada, probably.
Yeah, I'm guessing that also probably has to do with the market, right? Ottawa and Montreal are very close. We know there's a heavy French-Canadian population in Ottawa, so they probably would like to be on different days, which, again, logistically makes sense. Ottawa is over on the Metro side of the playoff bracket, so, again, just logistically speaking, would make sense to have one Atlantic, one Metro on Saturday, one Atlantic, one Metro on Sunday. But, this is the NHL. Who knows exactly what brains they'll be using to come up with this schedule. But ideally, I think just game one starting on a Saturday makes so much more sense. You have great vibes around the city on a Saturday. You don't have to worry about going to work the next day. Can you imagine the scenes on downtown Buffalo on a Saturday night if the Sabres play at 5 o'clock and beat the schnot out of the Bruins in game one? It would be great. But that's also obviously biased from a Sabres fan. But I'm hoping for Saturday.
I'm still wondering how they're going to be able to fit all these people at Canal Side, but I mean, the more the merrier, I guess, and it'll be a good problem to have. But infrastructure downtown Buffalo, I don't know if it's going to be able to handle the amount of people that are probably going to want to come down for this thing.
Oh, it'll be able to handle it. It'll be able to handle it, no problem.
Okay. I hope so. I want to see everybody have a great time for the first time in 14 seasons, be able to have, those outdoor watch parties, things like that. It's going to be a rocking downtown Buffalo. So let's get to Sabres head coach Lindy Ruff with his post-game comments from the game, and then also looking ahead to the series against Boston, which is going to be the meat and potatoes of what we're going to talk about today. So as always, that's brought to you by Wild Bill's Auto Repair, helping customers stay safe and confident on the road in Niagara since 2012 in honor of the late William Robert Hunter. Here's the Sabres head coach Lindy Ruff as they look ahead to the NHL playoffs.
Lindy, how did you feel about the game itself? You had a bunch of guys that weren't in the lineup. How did you feel as far as it went for the guys that did play?
I thought it was a good effort. Started the game well. I thought overall we did a lot of good things in the game. Made a few mistakes that cost us goals. Handed them a couple goals, but We had great opportunity late to win it, and then a couple opportunities in overtime.
Encouraged to see Josh Norris kind of enter the playoffs on a little bit of a hot streak here.
Yeah, I think that's a real positive. A great goal. He could have scored the one in overtime, but that almost got through him. Just a little bit higher, I think it goes in. But we know has to be a big part of it, and the fact that he scored here last few games it's got to have him feel good. Makes me feel good.
Norris and Benson, I mean, like you said, Norris is key. Benson's getting points, and your top guys often get shut down in the playoffs. A lot of teams run that. You need the middle guys putting some points up.
Yeah, I thought Benson had a real good game tonight. He was all over the place, and with us dressing 11 forwards, double shifted him a little bit, and had a great effort. Scored a real nice shorthanded goal. I think you've pretty well nailed it. Usually you do a real good job against the top guys, and that secondary scoring is going to be real important.
There are times he scores some real pretty goals. I mean, and that I think would be one of them. Does he show you at times the kind of talent he has offensively?
Well, I thought he had the puck on a string there tonight a lot of times. His stick handling and puck possession was real good. And, I think around the net that's kind of his area to score. You don't see him a lot of times scoring off the rush. It's mainly the small plays around the net that he gets rewarded for.
Games like this, you can experiment a little bit. You saw 3 defensemen on the second power play unit. Have you ever done that before, I guess?
No, we just wanted the extra right-handed shot. With the left-handers on one side. I thought we had that first unit we used had 3 or 4 unbelievable chances to score. Then our killing was doing an unbelievable job, and you look at the goal they get. They whip one wide, hits the skate, and goes in off of our skate. So, sometimes you got to be a little lucky. I thought both our units generated some good opportunities for units that only practiced a little bit together this morning.
I mean, Lindy, given this was a relatively nothing game and you wanted to get through it and your focus was on Boston, as competitive as it was, as competitive as the Sabres were, does it continue to validate your trust that this team knows how to handle situations and know what its identity is, I guess?
Well, I think we know what our identity is, and we've battled hard all year. The consistency level of our team has been excellent. The hard compete, the blocking shots, all that part of that game is, you don't get to where we got if you don't have that part of the game, and I think they've proved that. You could have said say that you wouldn't if you drop off after a month or two, but we've remained pretty darn consistent for the last 4 months.
Lindy, what do you tell your team about the lead up to the game? Not necessarily the playoffs in general, but what do you tell them for these next couple days?
We started today with, everything's about preparing, taking care of yourself, eating, sleeping, everything. Doing all the little extra stuff from treatments and coming to the rink, getting everything you need. We have every tool for those guys to use to be ready to play game 1. We don't know when game 1 is yet, but we're going to prepare like it's Saturday, and then it's Sunday. We make a small adjustment.
Going up against a team like Boston, how important is Malenstein going to be? Broke the hit record as well for the team tonight.
Well, Mal is a guy that's laid it on the line all year. He's a guy that's hard to play against, and great accomplishment. He's a guy that I don't think other teams like playing against. Those type of guys are important players in the playoffs. The shot blocking, his effort most nights is second to none.
There was Sabres head coach Lindy Ruff on the Wild Bills auto repair postgame. Austin, looking ahead to the Boston series there, he talked about knowing what their identity is. They've remained consistent over the last few months, and everything is about preparing for Boston, and they have every tool and resource to be able to do so. So I don't know if you had any quick takeaways from what he said tonight.
No, I mean, like he said, I liked, what he said about, obviously piggybacking off the Malenstein question, but pretty much saying, like, it's those depth guys, it's those role guys who tend to make a difference come a playoff series. And for the first time in a long time, I think that Buffalo has a very good cast of those guys, whether it's a Beck Malenstein, whether it's a, give Jordan Greenway credit. He's looking like a much healthier version of himself. Still doesn't have like, he's never been an elite skater, but he's got some juice to him, and he's using his size properly, things like that. Just that, and just how he reiterated they know their identity. I don't think it's a shock to anyone that up until maybe about the 10 game mark last year, or at some point late last year, I think Tuck even said in an article in the offseason, he's like, it took us way too long to buy into Lindy's system. Well, I don't think anyone can kind of question that this team is bought into Lindy's system and knows what their identity is now. And that's kind of just what we've seen over this 82 game season is they work, they play hard, they use their offensive skill, but they buy into what Lindy expects of them. And this is no longer a team that has to play in run and gun, 7-5 games. This is a team that can, if you want to play that style, they'll play that style. If you want to play the 1-0 grinded out game, they will play that game. So good for Lindy and how he's getting this team ready for the playoffs. My conspiracy brain is he said he's going to prepare like it's Saturday. He doesn't know it's Saturday. I don't know. I think they have an inkling of when they're going to play, but maybe that's just my tinfoil hat being put on.
Sometimes they don't give off as much as they might know, right? And Lindy's definitely earned the right to be in the Jack Adams Trophy discussion, I think, this year in the National Hockey League. Back in November, we were talking about who's going to replace Lindy when Adams is possibly fired as well, and he's really gotten the team to buy in because, lastly, is like, how many times over the years have we just said that the team knows what they have to do and they just don't play they just don't buy into the way that they need to play? Or even that first year under Lindy, as you mentioned, this team just seems like they are finally getting through as far as how they need to play, and then seeing the results and knowing that it does work with what we've seen over the last 3 months.
Yeah, I mean, such a stark contrast between the first 20 games of the year and the last 60 of them. Like, there wasn't any significant roster changes. The only significant change was Adams being fired. So, Lindy and Yarmo deserve a lot of credit for being able to turn this ship around, not because of anything that Yarmo did to tweak the roster, but just they clearly told the team now or never, and they responded to that messaging extremely well. And that's why they are Atlantic Division champions. That's why they are the number 1 seed in the Atlantic, going into a playoff series. It's why they broke the drought. It's why, like you just said, a guy like Lindy Ruff absolutely deserves to be in the Jack Adams conversation. Realistically, probably should be the front runner. That's a debate for another day, though. But this is a team that set expectations, has set, I can't even say unrealistic expectations, because I think it's realistic now to expect this team to go on a deep playoff run, which would, if you would have told me, earlier in the year, if this team broke the drought, I think I would have been like, yeah, that's cool. Realistically, I just need them to get in. But the way that this year has gone and this team has played, just making the playoffs isn't gonna do it, isn't gonna cut it.
Yeah, they've kicked down the door and changed expectations from just being happy to be in the playoffs for the first time in 14 years to now, other than Carolina, you could have home ice advantage all the way to the Stanley Cup final. So, again, those are crazy words coming out of my mouth, but with this team and the way they've been playing, it's not out of the realm of possibility. But we got to look ahead to this first-round matchup, and our playoff preview is brought to you by the Niagara Dental Clinic, creating natural smiles in the Niagara region for over 25 years. Austin, we know they're going to go up against Atlantic Division rival Boston Bruins. Obviously going to have home ice advantage as well on the Sabres side, so that's also good as well. The Sabres this season against the Bruins, I just have to pull up the head-to-head matchup. Excuse me. They went 1-2 against Boston this year. Boston 3-1 in that sense. A couple of games went to extra time, overtime, things like that. So, what are you expecting from what we're going to see with this series, and what are you expecting that they need to do in order to have success against this pesky Bruins team?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think about, hey, here's your reward for winning the Atlantic is you get to go up against I think they had 98 points, the 98-point Boston Bruins. the year the Sabres win the Atlantic and make the playoffs just so happens to be the year where the Atlantic is by far and away the best division in hockey. There is not a single team of the 5 representatives from the Atlantic Division. There's not a single one that's an easy out. I think the season record doesn't really matter in this case for either team. Boston got Buffalo early on in the year when they were atrocious, injury riddled, and things like that. And on the flip side, the Bruins fans can just say, well, you got Korpisalo 3 times. And the only time that Swayman played, Buffalo scored 1 goal. So this literally might be one of the few times where I can say throw the regular season record out. It doesn't really matter. In terms of what Buffalo's going to need to do, obviously there's the cliche stuff, right? You got to play your game and everything like that, blah, blah, blah. But I think the true X factor for this series will be Luukkonen versus Swayman. Not a slight towards Luukkonen at all, but Swayman is clearly the more proven goalie, especially in the playoffs. I think right now there's no significant area where Boston has an edge on Buffalo. The only thing I can think of is the goaltending, and that's not a slight on Luukkonen. As I said, it's just with Swayman's proven track record, I think right now Luukkonen's going to have to outplay Swayman in order for Buffalo to win, because that's just Swayman is the goalie that can steal a series for a team.
And when you're looking at Boston's point discrepancy, Austin, David Pastrnak had 100 points, and then it's a drop-off to 68 to Morgan Geekie, second on the team, Pavel Zacha at 65, McAvoy 61, Arvidsson at 54. They signed as a veteran free agent. We know Casey Middlestad's also over there as a former Sabres first-round pick, so you expect him to have a prove-it series against his old team, most likely. But really shutting down number 88 on Boston is going to be paramount for Buffalo to have success.
Oh, absolutely. And like you said, like we've reiterated on this episode multiple times, the depth is going to be key. Biases aside, I like Buffalo's depth more than Boston's, just plain and simple.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they have Pastrnak. Geekie's an elite goal scorer and everything like that. And, Middlestat, Arvidsson, and Minton were at times one of the best lines that the Bruins have had. But realistically, I just think that Buffalo's, depth up front and their depth on defense is better than the Bruins. To me, it really just comes down to, are you going to be able to, is the elite Vezina talent Jeremy Swayman going to show up, or are you going to be able to make him human? Because if the Sabres can get to Jeremy Swayman, I think they're going to win this series. And I got to be careful here because obviously I'm not trying to get too far out of myself. I don't think it's crazy to say that Buffalo's the better team and should be expected to win this series. I think, like I said, the only thing giving me pause is the goaltending. I love Buffalo's top 4. I think Buffalo's top 4 defense can be matched up with any other teams in this league. I don't think that's a stretch to say. I think their forward depth is elite. And like I said before, if that Norris line is going, Buffalo's going to be dangerous and they're going to be able to take it to Boston.
And yeah, I mean, I think Buffalo is, as you mentioned, like even goaltending, Luukkonen and Lyon and even Ellis at times have proven that they can handle it. I know you mentioned Swayman is the more proven goaltender, but I think Buffalo has them offensively. I think they have them, in the defensive zone. I know Buffalo's power play is going to have to obviously be a point of emphasis to get better in this series if they want to have success. But they had more goals for than Boston this year. They gave up less goals than the Bruins did, and again, like the Bruins, like their home record was pretty successful this year, 29-11-1, but their road record 16-16-9, and Buffalo's going to have home ice advantage in this series. So I think I already mentioned Buffalo's strong home record this season, 26 wins. As well. So you have to take that into account too, of home ice advantage being a big deal and swaying in Buffalo's favor with the statistics on both sides as well.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Like you said, the one things that they say, it's a hockey thing in general, but it's even amplified in the playoffs is special teams and goaltending, right? I think at 5-on-5, Buffalo's the better team. There's not really much of a question about that. I think if this series is played mostly at 5-on-5, the Sabres will be fine. If they do somehow find a way to get the power play going, that's obviously a huge plus. That is obviously another area of concern. I think all Sabres fans would agree with that. I think the other thing that Buffalo will need to do, or I guess not to do, is don't get sucked in, right? Like the Bruins are a savvy, I know not everyone, obviously this is a much different Bruins team than the dynasties that they've had. But a lot of these guys have been there, been in playoff series and things like that before, whether it's with the Bruins or with different teams. Don't let them suck you in and muck this series up like guys like Nikita Zadorov will do. Let them play their game. Don't buy into it. Obviously, step up for yourself when you need to step up for yourself, but don't be deterred from playing your game. They're going to need to control the narrative of the series. They're not going to, you make Boston play your game. Don't play Boston's game is basically what I'm trying to say. And if they do that, I genuinely do think they'll be fine. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a long series just because I think that every team in the Atlantic Division is very dangerous. But I do think this is a series where the expectation is the Sabres should win this. I don't think we are Sabres fans, we are a Sabres podcast, but I think I'm being pretty objective when I say that. I think they're the better team, and I think, they're the Atlantic Division champions. They should be expected to win this.
And to me, like, there was points in the season where we didn't even think Boston would be a playoff team. They've gone through some tough stretches this year. This isn't the Bergeron, Marchand, Chara, Rask Boston Bruins that we've seen in the past. I know they still have Pasternak, Lindholm, Zaka was injured, he's back. Morgan Geekie you mentioned a little bit, but to me, like, this Bruins team has shown times this year where they've played very inconsistent as well, and under their coaching staff as well. So I think, again, if Buffalo can get the power play, righted the ship there, because it's not like it's a talent issue. They have an abundance of talent and abundance of different players they can put on in different roles to make the power play successful. It's more so scheme and how they're going about the power play that has been the issue. Even though they're ranked 18th in the NHL in power play, they have looked like a bottom 5 team on the power play, which is incredible to think about considering how much success they've had, or maybe even how much more success they would have had if the power play would have just been decent, the last little bit. And just the eye test, right? Like we've talked about it for months on end. It just doesn't look right. It doesn't. The second unit has looked better at times. So I just think the X factor of this series is going to be Buffalo taking care of business, as you mentioned, as the favorites coming in against a Bruins team that just lacks the total depth that Buffalo has right now on the forward side and on the defensive side. That if Buffalo does what they're supposed to do and takes care of when they give an opportunity, score on them, I think that the Sabres can end this thing in 5 or 6 games.
Yeah, 100%. Like I said, the Bruins are clearly a very talented team, like top to bottom. I just think the Sabres are deeper, plain and simple. And power play is obviously going to be the talking point. It's cliche to say that, obviously, because that's been the talking point for the Sabres all year. But yeah, if that power play gets home and then gets on a hot streak like they were, around December, January, this will be something that Buffalo can do in quick order. But until that happens, it's kind of, I'm not going to hold my breath, is basically what I'm saying. They're going to have to control this series at 5-on-5, which they're more than capable of doing.
I think it was Mike Harrington asked in that press conference about, everybody's top 6 usually cancels itself out more times than not 5-on-5, and you're going to need those depth guys to come through. How do you feel about Buffalo's bottom 6? We know that Norris, Benson, Doan line has been so good, with the dogs on a bone mentality they have in the fourth line. Hopefully Sam Carrick could possibly be back for some time in the playoffs, but if not, they've got Malenstein and some of those other guys on the fourth line. So what are you thinking from that bottom 6 being able to contribute? And I think that, that could be a swaying point in the series, as opposed to if Boston or Buffalo's bottom 6 are the ones to be able to come through here.
Yeah, whether you look at the Norris line or the McLeod line as their third line, I think either one is very capable third line. We know how good that Quinn, Zucker, McLeod line can be. As for the fourth line, obviously not having Carrick hurts, but like I said, giving Greenway the credit, he's looked a lot better. Malenstein is who he is. And honestly, whether it's Kozak or Dunn for game 1, I think the X factor for that fourth line is I fully expect when he's healthy, Noah Ostlund to be the center on that fourth line come playoff time. And I think he'll make that fourth line even more dangerous because he'll provide that offensive flair. But obviously he's doubtful for game 1. So I think really the story for the fourth line, especially early on in the series, is just going to be get the puck out and cycle it in their zone. And if you get an opportunity, capitalize. If not, just possess the puck, because that line is built, again, with Dunn or Kozak, that line is built to just grind you out and physically punish you. I think, like I said, adding Olsen to that line, which is where I think he will play when healthy, will, I think, make them a much more dangerous line. But early on, it's just going to be, like you said, whose depth steps up. And just the way that Norris, Benson, and Doan have been playing, I can't root against. I not root against them. I can't bet against them. That line, honestly, has been their most effective line the Sabres have. And if that line steps up, I've said it 3 times already on this episode, if that line's playing the way it's playing, they're not only going to be dangerous, but they are going to be able to impose their will on teams. And that will go a long way to going on it. Not only beating the Bruins potentially, but a deep, deep playoff run.
And with that being said, talking about the opponent, I know that Tampa Bay, Lindy like to put out Stanley and Shen and have a bigger sort of lineup there. Who I guess we'll ask you forward and defense. Who do you want to see as that 12th forward on the fourth line, and who do you want to see as the 6th defenseman? Because we sort of know the 5 that are going to be in there with Dahlin. You've got Samuelson, you've got Power, you've got Byram, and you've got Stanley. So it's always about that last person. Kesselring, Shen, and Timmins are the guys that are sort of in there right now. Who are you expecting to see in Game 1 as the 6th defenseman?
Oh, it's going to be the guy you didn't mention. I don't see any reason why it's. I don't see any reason why it's not going to be Metsä. Down the stretch, when needed, for the most part, it's been Stanley and Metsä.
Mm-hmm.
He had a bad game against Washington, absolutely. Don't see any reason why Ruff's going to pull the plug on there. Maybe I still am on the Kesselring train. I still think he can be extremely effective and useful, especially in a playoff series. As for the 12th forward, obviously, like I said, this goes back to Ostlund just being doubtful for Game 1. I don't know. Maybe I'll lean towards Dunn, but I feel like it's just going to be Kozak because that's kind of who they've been playing. I don't think there's really a wrong option, but I do like Josh Dunn's style in a playoff series. He's bigger than Kozak. He's more physically punishing than Kozak. I think I'd prefer to see him, but my expectation is it'll be Kozak.
Given their playoff experience, and I'm just using this for the sake of argument, do you see any scenario where either Shen or Tanner Pearson get in, given their experience in long, deep playoff runs over their NHL careers?
Yeah, I don't think they're in for Game 1, but I could see a scenario where they get put in. But hopefully it doesn't come to that. Nothing against Pearson. I actually like Tanner Pearson a lot every time he's been in. He's here for depth, though. And like I said, just Dunn or Kozak being able to play the center position leads me to believe that they will be in over a guy like Pearson. As for Shen, just really just depends on how much you think Boston's going to try to be like Tampa Bay. And I know they're going to, but I don't see nothing against Shen. I just don't see the need for putting him in and potentially actively making your lineup slower when your speed should be your biggest advantage.
And putting a mobile partner with Stanley is going to be paramount, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know if there's anything else you want to mention about this series, but I think that that's pretty much all we know at the moment.
Do we want to do a prediction, or do
Sure.
we care?
Why not?
Right,
I already said 5 or 6, so I'm going to stick with that. I'll say, for the sake of this show, I'll say Sabres in 6.
All right, I'm going to give us the full playoff experience our first time back. I'm going to go Sabres in 7.
I thought you were going to go Sabres in 4.
No, we're getting to Game 7. Come on, we're gonna get a full 15 years worth of emotion and have to sweat out a 7th game.
Just please don't have
Honestly,
it be a Ville Leno.
I do. Buffalo is going to win this series, but Boston is the team that I preferred over Ottawa. But I'm not discounting Boston. They are a very good team. I just think Buffalo's better. At the end of the day, Buffalo's going to win this series, but Boston's going to put up a fight. Pastrnak is good enough to steal a game, and I think Swayman's good enough to steal a game or two. But at the end of the day, I think that's the one thing I love about the NHL is most of the time the better team comes out on top. Buffalo's the better team.
and we know Boston and their players have sort of gone through those playoff runs as well. So I guess you could say that they might have some players that are more accustomed to the playoffs, and these Sabres players are going to take their first crack at it for a lot of this core. So you might think that favors the Bruins to at least win a game or two in this series. So even though on paper it looks like the Sabres should win, as you mentioned, it's not going to be an easy out. But I'm also happy with this matchup over Ottawa, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I think there's no easy team in the Atlantic, like I said, but I think at the end of the day, Boston is eerily similar to Buffalo in terms of their underlying numbers are about middle of the league average, and they vastly outperform them. Buffalo is very similar in that way, but Buffalo is much better in terms of their ability to, like, Boston gives up quite a bit. They give up high danger chances. They give up quality looks. Buffalo has gotten a lot better at negating those. And I just think that at the end of the day, as good as the top line for Boston can be, and as good as a guy like Charlie McAvoy is, from the top guy on the roster to the bottom guy on the roster, Buffalo's better. And I say I bought in on Luukkonen. I don't expect Luukkonen to slow down anytime soon.
Absolutely not. And I'm going to finish off with an X factor player for me is going to be Jack Quinn. You know, he got 20 goals this season, a career high. If he can contribute on the power play, if he can contribute 5-on-5, I think on that second line for Buffalo, or the third line, however they sort of shake that out, I think Jack Quinn's going to be an X factor player, other than as a complementary piece to those top end guys that you expect to produce.
Yeah, my X factor, I think, is I'll spare the obvious one because mine was going to be a guy like Josh Norris. But I do think a guy like, I can't believe I'm actually saying this. I do think a guy like Logan Stanley can be an X factor. He has some playoff experience. And obviously tonight aside, because tonight is meaningless no matter if it was good or bad, but I really like Stanley, like the 2 or 3 games leading up to the season finale tonight. I think he's kind of finding his footing a little bit and playing the way he is. And just as good as Buffalo's top 4 is, I fully expect them to play 30 minutes a night. Like, it's playoff time. It's time to ride your hot hand. But if Stanley can go out there and give you 15 solid minutes, it's going to keep guys like Dahlin, Power, Byram, and Samuelson that much fresher and making them that much more dangerous. So obviously up front, there's the obvious guys, but I think, the third pair, specifically a guy like Stanley, if he plays extremely well, which obviously remains to be seen, but I've liked him a lot lately, and I think he can ride that, and he's going to fit this Bruins series nicely. They're going to, if the guy like Zadorov tries to do what he tries to do, Stanley can answer it. And obviously it's very hard to predict this stuff, but even though they lost that game against the Senators, when Stanley beat up Tkachuk wasn't the same for the rest of that game. And I think Stanley can bring that here. And if Stanley allows that to happen and frees up the rest of this team, that kind of takes Boston's bite out of them. And I think Boston needs that chippiness and that grinded outness that we're going to muck this series up. I think they need that to be effective. And if you have a guy who can potentially negate that, it allows Buffalo to play their own game, and they're a tough team to beat when they're playing their own game.
Yeah, I mean, he's an easy big target, right? But at the same time, if he can sort of get in there and muck it up with some of those guys on the Bruins side, we know Zadorov's going to try to assert himself, and he's another former Sabres first-round pick that they're going to go against in this playoff series of the long list of drafted players that finally got Buffalo to this moment. But yeah, this is going to be an exciting series between 2 Atlantic Division rivals, and would you want to have it any other way? Maybe the Toronto Maple Leafs, but I can't think of another team that I'd want to start off a 14-year playoff drought than with your rival Boston Bruins if you're the Sabres.
Yeah, no, I'm ready. I'm ready for Sabres Bruins to be back, because it was a lot of fun hating them in the early 2000s, and it feels right.
Absolutely. So, Austin, any final thoughts as we wrap it up? It's going to be an exciting one. Next time we'll talk, it's going to be sometime in the middle of the series, but it's going to be fun. KeyBank Center and downtown Buffalo is going to be rocking come Saturday, Sunday, whenever it is. But it's going to be exciting times, and hopefully we'll be having a lot to talk about on this show for a deep playoff run here for the fans.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, to everyone who's going to the game or going to Canal Side, enjoy it. It's been a long time. And I don't know exactly when, but I also plan on making a trip over to downtown Buffalo. So
there you go. Maybe you can get an autograph session with Austin Broad. But with that said, that's going to wrap it up for tonight's Sabres Semantics episode here live from KeyBank Center following the Sabres 4-3 shootout loss to the Dallas Stars, finishing off their regular season, but also our playoff preview as they look ahead to the Boston Bruins here as the Atlantic Division champions. As always, Global Pet Foods and their 3 great Niagara region locations in Niagara Falls, Fawn Hill, and Scott Street are the show sponsor of Sabres Semantics. Thank you to everybody tuned in live tonight on the YouTube version. Make sure to hit like, hit subscribe, smash that bell if you enjoyed this live coverage, and those who listen the next day on your favorite on-demand audio podcast platform, thank you very much for doing so as well. Make sure to give us a follow on X at Sabres Semantics. Stay update with all of our Sabres coverage, as well as on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok by searching the Armchair GM Sports Network. So for Austin Broad, my name is Brandon Caputo. Enjoy the first 2 games of the Buffalo Sabres' first playoff appearance in 14 seasons. We'll talk to you guys again very soon here on Sabres Semantics. Talk to you later.
You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network.